Hey guys, it's Voldyaar back our Vanguard deck profile. If you guys enjoyed, don't like, comment, subscribe, and story. This time we're covering another deck from DZ set 10, with it being Stoicheia and Magnolia Patriarch. So Patriarch got some more support this set, to be specific, 2 cards. And the first card I was kind of not really caring for. The second card I thought was really good, which normally means I'm only going to upgrade the deck by 1 card, and then I proceed not to end up doing a deck profile because I only changed 1 card. But then I actually looked at it again, and I was like, you know what, that card isn't that bad. So I decided to put it into Magnolia because it adds extra defense power, and then I decided to change around some ratios to fit it, and now honestly I like this new deck a little bit more, so it's enough to make me make a deck profile. So let's go ahead and get started with what we got, because honestly the deck did change a decent amount since the last time I played it. First up we have our energy generator, so this is our ride deck crest. Do you mind wearing deck crest in your ride deck? Auto ride deck, when you ride, put this card to your crest zone. If you win second, you get to energy charge 3, continue to spend a 10 energy, and on beginning of your ride base, energy charge 3, and then act once per turn, energy plus 7, draw a card. On pretty solid, you get a 3/3 energy every turn. If you win second, you get an extra 3 on top of that, and then once you have 7 more energy, you can blast 7 of it to draw. No card in this deck actually uses energy as a cost, meaning you can always save up your energy and then blast 7 of it all the way to draw a card. Not a bad card at all to have in the deck, and it is mandatory to have a ride deck crest. Moving on, we have our starter in Sylvan Beast Lotte. Great 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto rim Rotapon. If you win second, draw a card. Standard starter, enough spot to free draw if you go second. You can make this any starter you want. None of the ride line requires Lotte. However, the deck does have a lot of abilities that pull Sylvan Beast from the drop zone. So, you know, worst case scenario, if your only real good target is Lotte, which to be fair isn't really a good scenario to be in, but if that is the case, you might as well want to call Lotte just in case that does happen. Plus, it's a starter. Like, the most difference it's going to make is your opponent thinking you're playing one deck over another, since they all share the same skill anyways. Moving on, we have our Over Trigger and Source Dragon GD Blessings Bless Favor. Great Zilla boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Over Trigger, you want Over Trigger in your deck, reveal it as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one means, give it plus 1 million for the turn. And if you revealed it during your draft check, activate the addition effect, which you get to draw a card, choose one units, give it plus 1 critical to end of turn. All your 4 units get 10,000 power, even though it's specified that also lasts till end of turn. Every damage on a set number of cards your opponents or more, choose a card from your damage zone to heal it. All around, it's an incredibly powerful ability, because whether you draft check this or damage check this, someone gets a million and you get a draw. But if you drove check it, you get a secondary draw. Someone gets a critical, either the Vanguard or the thing you're giving the million to. Your front row gets 10k, so if your opponent won to pass the Vanguard, no need to put the million on the Vanguard. Just give it the front row 10k buff, give a million to a rear guard, and then give the crit to Vanguard who's already going through, and you possibly even get to heal. Bless Before doesn't guarantee you the win upon stacking it defensively, but it makes it one hell of a lot harder of a game for your opponent to win, especially if you pull it at the right time. So I love having Bless Before on the Over Trigger, because it doesn't feel unfair compared to the other Over Triggers, and it doesn't auto win you the game on the spot in terms of timings. And then we have our normal triggers. We have 3 copies of Sylvan Beast Volin, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. So it's just a standard front trigger. I chose to make it Volin because Magnolia has archetypal triggers, so I chose to run the archetypal triggers. I'm going to give you the actual triggers you should run, so no one can tell me that I didn't tell you the right trigger lineup to run. I say personally with this deck, go 3 front, 8 crit. I feel like the deck already has enough draw power as is. It has enough guard power to where I feel like you could afford to do front trigger, specifically Frenzied Harris, to get more offensive numbers, and that way add a little bit more defensive power. If you want, you could go 4 front, 7 crit. I chose to make it 4 draws because, again, I like using archetypal triggers. So Grid Zone boost, 5k shield, 5k base on Ladder. I mean, it makes for good discard fodder. But again, make it 4 front being Frenzied Harris, and then 7 crit. 4 of my crit being Sylvan Beast Jackalope, Grid Zone boost, 50k shield, 5k base. You make any crit you want, just to make it Jackalope because, again, Sylvan Beast. If you were to run another crit here, I would suggest making it the vanilla crit, because the deck doesn't really have a soul problem unless you run into one very specific line of play. And to be fair, I consider that line of bricking play, so take that as you will. Then we have our heal trigger in Sylvan Beast Laterog, Grid Zone boost, 50k shield, 5k base, standard heal, enough spot. You can make this any heal you want. I was supposed to make a Laterog A, yes, because of the Sylvan Beast thing, but B, I don't really like the counter heals too much. I feel like their fluctuating 10 to 25k shield can really hurt you, especially if your opponent attacks you during the time span where those card skills don't go off, so you're stuck with a 10k shield. So I have a consistent 15k shield instead. Again, my trigger lineup is different than the one I recommend. I recommend 3 to 4 front triggers, and then either 7 crit or 8 crit, depending on your front trigger count. Moving on to our grade 1s, 4 copies of our only grade 1 in the deck that isn't the ride deck: Planet Prevent Dragon, grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, continuous sentinel 4 sentinels in deck, and always put on guard circle. Choose on use, it cannot be hit in the battle for hands, 2 more cards, and choose a card from hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing just specified, basically means it doesn't have 1 cards on your hand plus 1 guard circle. You don't have to discard, great, because that means you'd be super aggressive in the early game. You don't have any grade 1s to spam, but you sure as hell have a lot of grade 2s to spam, and then your opponent does eventually counterattack you, throw down Planet Prevent, and you're good to go. All around, very solid PG to have. You can make this Custodial Dragon, or you can make this Cyrus, because they have the exact same skills, Planet Prevent. I chose to make it Planet Prevent, though, because it came out close to the time of OG Magnolia's release, and might as well use this one with the new Magnolia being released. As for our last grade 1 in the deck, because we only have the 4 PGs in the main deck, 1 of them in the right deck, none in the main deck, of Blossoming Flower, Sylvan Beast, Cheris. I love Cheris' art, and he looks so cute. I love, like, the little flowers that he's playing with. I don't know if those are actually Magnolias, but, like, it just looks so cute with his little belly exposed. I want to rub him. Anyways, Auto and Rotapon by a grade 2 card Sylvan Beast in the card name, whether it's OG Lattice, New Lattice, or some other different card. Check the top 3 each up to 1 grade 2 or less norm unit from among them, call it to rearguard circle, and you may discard the rest. If you didn't discard any cards, put the cards not chosen on the bottom deck in any order. So you call 1, basically. Hopefully you call 1, otherwise you just saw 3 triggers. And then if you don't call something, you either send all of them to bottom or you send them to drop zone. So not a bad skill at all. It can help deck them for triggers, or it just helps recycle cards as well. And it's a free superior call when it's Rotopalm, which is great. And again, as you saw, the deck has a lot of grade 2 aggro. So your grade 1 turn, you're only swinging Cherish, but your grade 2 turn, ideally, you're swinging with 3 lines. So 1 of Cherish in the right deck, you don't really need in the main deck because no rearguard skill. On to our grade 2, starting off with 3 copies of our first aggro card, Sylvan Beast Banaspati, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base. The card that personally saved the Sylvan Beast for me in DZ because this card was really cool when it first came out. Auto placed on rearguard circle other than during the battle phase. Counterboss 1 to soul boss 1 to choose whenever Vanguard's a Sylvan Beast in the card name, whether it's Lattice, somehow Cherish if you pulled it during that point, or Magnolia. For every 2 grades of that unit, choose a grade 3 or less card with a different card name from this unit from your drop zone and call it to rearguard circle. So if you did somehow call it on Cherish, it wouldn't do anything. But on Lattice, you get a rearguard. On Magnolia Patriarch, you get a rearguard. If you ran Elder in your deck, this one doesn't. But if you did run Elder, you would get 2 rearguards. And then auto rearguard when it attacks into anything. Choose one of your Vanguards with Sylvan Beast in the card name. For every 2 grades of that unit, this unit gets 5,000 power for the battle. All on pretty solid. It can superior call any rearguard from drop zone back to the board as long as your Vanguard is Sylvan Beast. More importantly, it's a 15k swing literally every time it swings. Not a bad card at all. It does eat into the resources a little bit, and a lot of the times you already have full board presence. There's really a way to get your Voldyaars out of soul if they end up in soul, or your Comadretts out of soul, or pretty much just a board spam your opponent if they board nuke you. It's not a bad grade 2, but because after turn 2 or 3 you don't really do much with it, it's a solid 3 for me because you don't want to see too much after that point. Then we have 4 copies of everyone's favorite Care Bear, the thing that auto breaks literally anything that it gives a skill to. Sylvan Beast Giunosla, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto back or rear guard circle anywhere in the back row. When it attacks into anything, CB1, choose one of your other rear guards and it gets this unit's power to end of turn. Increase to power at time. That's a very powerful ability because Patriarch already makes this thing a 15k base once your opponent hits grade 3, plus triggers 25k base, a second trigger maybe 35k base. That means you give it 5k power, whether it's attacking a Vanguard or rear guard, to another unit. Let's say you give it to a second Giunosla, so that thing's, let's just say its base power was 15 at that moment. That means its base power jumps all the way to 50, and then you use that Giunosla skill if you have another CB to give him another rear guard plus 50. All around Giunosla is not a bad grade 2 at all. It allows you to get a hell of a lot of aggro out of your deck for only 1 CB, and it does eat into the CB, but thankfully we have cards that reduce the cost, such as Comadrett over here, and then cards that can counter like Alpin. And since the only cards in the deck that actually counterblast are Magnolia, Patriarch himself, Banaspati and Giunosla, that means you have a very consistent way to make sure Giunosla always goes off, so solid 4 for me. Moving on, we have 4 copies of Sylvan Beast Alpin, so our very lovable alpaca, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto rearguard when it attacks into a Vanguard. If your Vanguard has Magnolia in the card name, it gets 5,000 power for that battle for every 2 of your grade 2 or greater units, including itself. If it got plus 10k by this effect at the end of the battle, bind it and countercharge 1 and soul charge 1. All around pretty solid. You don't have to bind it if you don't want to, so if it just got plus 15k but you want to keep it on board because you don't need to countercharge or soul charge, you can choose to do that and just keep it on board. That way you have a grade 2 tagger for the next turn, and that ability procs off regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, meaning when it swings into your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard, it can be a 25k swing overall. All around, it's a very powerful grade 2 to have in the deck for just free resource gain and free numbers as well. It helps the deck out a lot in terms of resources, and again, it can proc all this off while your opponent is at grade 2, making it a solid 4 of. In the original version of this deck, before we got one of our new grade 2s, one of our grade 1 slots would be dedicated to Cyril, who would be a great card to have on board, except because it was a grade 1, it would always hurt Alpin's consistency with the rest of the deck, because that means you would always be 1 less of getting it to plus 15k power instead. But now since the deck pretty much has all grade 2s except for our PGs and triggers, well, that means Alpin will always be getting that 15k essentially, so 4 of. As for 4 copies of one of our newer cards, Sylvan Beast Comadrett, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Don't know why I chose to run it as a 2 of in my original build. Actually, no, I know exactly why I chose to run it as a 2 of in my original build, and then afterwards I was like, nah, F it, screw the card, I put it at 204. Auto drop zone when your grade 3 grade Vanguard Magnolia and its card name is placed, perform one of the following. If you do not have a copy of this on the rear guard, call it to rear guard circle for free, and your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 guard, it gets 5,000 power for the turn. So Magnolia Patriarch just on ride gets you a rear guard, then Comadrett gets itself back on rear guard, and if you use Magnolia's skill to specifically call Banaspati, that means Banaspati gets you another rear guard. So just simply by playing Magnolia Patriarch, if you're willing to pay a CB1 and a Soul Boss 1, it can net you 3 rear guards in about 5 seconds flat. Or the other ability you could do with it is shove it to Soul instead and choose over Vanguards, and the cost of that unit's original act ability is reduced by CB1 for the turn. Meaning Magnolia Patriarch can now give your rear guards the ability to attack from the back row for 1 less CB cost, AK for free, which which means all your CB can go to either Giunosla spam or the one copy of Banaspati you're going to play in that turn. All around Comadrett, very solid grade 2 to have. It either gets you an extra rearguard on board and an extra 5k just by riding a Magnolia, or it basically gets you a free soul and makes Magnolia skill free for the entirety of the turn, all again for only making you ride a Magnolia. Very solid grade 2 to have in the deck. Easy 4 because you want to see it as consistently as possible. Now, if you want to take it down to 3 of, I could see reason to, and then maybe put in one copy of like Sylvan Hornbeast. I want to say its name is like Rimball or something. It's the Rhino that gives everything in its column boost because that is helpful if you end up going first against your opponent and you want to full board spam your opponent for Alpin full power. But take that as you will if you choose to put in that card. And then we have 4 copies of Sylvan Hornbeast Voldyaar, grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Auto rearguard when attacking on anything. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 greater Magnolia till end of the battle, it gets 5,000 power and your opponent cannot intercept. So this card just straight up locks your opponent out of intercepting for fun, and it doesn't require the opponent to be at a specific grade for that, so 15k F your opponent's intercept. So again, Magnolia Patriarch over here allows you to attack 5 times on your grade 2 turn to your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard, so possible lethal right there. And then auto rear guard at the end of your turn. If your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater Magnolia and your unit attack from the back road all that turn, regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard is, shove it to soul, draw a card. Get you more soul, get you more hand cards. There is a card in this deck that costs soul, which I don't know why I thought that would be a soul boss problem considering we have 2 different cards that get a soul. Let me rephrase that, 3 different cards that get a soul, all of which are at 4 copies, and one of the only cards in the deck that actually soul blast, you're only going to use once, maybe twice a game. All around, Voldyaar, very solid grade 2. Adds for a little bit more aggression on your opponent as it does lock down intercepts for battle, so you can shove triggers on it galore or shove your Giunoslas on it. It gets more power just by attacking from anywhere, and at the end about something attack from the back row, regardless if it was self or someone else, it goes to soul and gets you extra hand cards, making it a very solid grade 2 to have in the deck for both resources and just pressure-wise, so 4 of. Moving on to one of our newer cards, we have Sylvan Hornbeast Tepar, grade 2 5k shield, 10k base. This was the card I was against, but then after rereading its skill and then after reconstructing the deck, I actually think it works out really fine. Continues rearguard a guard circle. If your Vanguard has Sylvan Hornbeast in the card name, this unit cannot be retired by your opponent's card effects and gets 5,000 shield active both his turns. So that was the ability that made me skeptical about it, or made me want to put it back into the deck, because it being a 10k shield with the ability to intercept from back row thanks to the existence of Patriarch over here, in my hindsight made it really good, because even though it can still be chosen by card effects to be like bound or bot decked or returned to hand or specifically moved off the rear guard, thank you Dragon Empire Ace unit, it could still prevent itself from being retired by normal means from the rear guard circle, and it still has the extra 5k shield, which again works from intercepting or just placing on guard circle. Following that, auto rear guard once per turn. This was the ability that made me hate it, but then again after thinking about it, it was fine. When your other unit attacks on the back row, if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, soul boss will only give it 10k for the turn. So it doesn't have to be in the back row to proc that ability. The card it replaced was Rajika, the card that does have to be in the back row to get a skill off. So it doesn't have to be in the back row to get the power, just someone else has to swing. And the part that I didn't like about it was that they cost soul, but then again, after realizing that literally 3 cards soul charge and at least 2 of them will always hit the board, yeah, it's a solid 4 for me. Always going to be a 20k once the opponent hits grade 3, is a 10k interceptor from anywhere on the board. If your opponent doesn't pop it, well, there you go. And you can keep it in hand if you want, just for defensive pressure. All around, very solid grade 2 to have in the deck. If you want to tech down a copy or 2 of it and then a copy or 2 of Comadrett just to put in that 1 grade 2 rim baller, just for that, make sure that your grade 2 turn and your grade 3 turn are super aggressive by filling up your board with a bunch of grade 2s, you can. Either way though, 4 of Tepar, very solid grade 2 to have in the deck for aggro and defense. Next up, we have 4 copies of pretty much the grade 2 version of Serral. Sylvan Hornbeast Chachao Chile. It will be canonical in my head that even though Serral is technically a goat, sheep, whatever it's classified as, is one of the 2. And Cathair is clearly a cheetah or a leopard in some way, shape, or form. That Serral just evolved into this because their skills are almost the exact same verbatim, except Serral is better. So grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when placed on rearguard circle from either hand or placed on rearguard circle by the ability of your card Sylvan Hornbeast in the card name, whether it's Magnolia himself or Banaspati, mind you. Soul Boss 1, check the top 7 if your Vanguard that has Magnolia in the card name is a grade 3 or greater, and add a Magnolia from them to your hand, reveal, put your hand, shuffle your deck. So Serral did almost the exact same thing, except Serral had to either be placed from hand or placed from deck, and as long as you had the Vanguard with Sylvan Hornbeast in the card name, whether it was placed from deck by a different ability or not, it would still proc off. It would still Soul Blast you a card, and you could pull it off before you got to grade 3. However, it only checked the top 5. This one makes you wait till you're at grade 3, and it has to be placed specifically by Sylvan Hornbeast, or you just hard play it from hand. But in exchange, you get to check the top 7 instead for literally the exact same cost. And the second ability is literally verbatim the same skill that Cyril had, continues rear guard. If you have a grade 3 Vanguard with Magnolia in the card name, your Persona Ride also increases the power of your back row units. Very solid. It makes your Persona Ride pump your back row as well, which is Magnolia's one downside to it, because you always want to pump your back row bigger numbers, but when you Persona Road, your front row will get the numbers, so that way you're not losing out on too many power boosts from the boosting not being there because you're on grade 2s. But on the downside, your back row would always be like 15k bases. Well, now they're 25k base, and that does a lot when your back row has a bunch of Giunoslas in it. So 4 of Chile, very solid grade 2 to have, gets you a Magnolia Persona Ride off just being placed, and it also gives you Persona Ride to your back row as well, making it easy 4 of. As for our last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the right deck, none in the main deck of Mercy, Sylvanhorn Beast, Lactus, grade 2 instead 5k shield, 10k base, auto and road upon by a grade 3 card Magnolia in the card name, Soul Boss 1, and choose a grade 3 or greater card or normal order from your drop zone and put it to your hand. So in this deck, there's only one grade 3 or greater card, and that'll be Magnolia Patriarch. So hopefully by the time that you ride from Lattice into Patriarch, you have seen a Magnolia, and if you can, cool, that just makes your ride deck free, and if you don't, well, you save on a souls, it's not the end of the world. And then continues rear guard during your turn. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Magnolia in the card name, gets 5,000 power. Not a bad skill at all. With Magnolia Patriarch skill, this ends up in drop zone, you can superior call it. You have better targets such as, I don't know, free Persona Ride, basically stronger and better in terms of defending as well, basically better aggro and consistency. To be fair, this one can just call itself from drop zone. Alpin, who is just all around really good, and Giunosla and Banaspati. So you get my point. Like, if there's no good targets in the drop zone, you can call Lattice, but 9 times out of 10 you won't. But it's a good card to soul boss off its own skill again, like if you end up discarding a Patriarch throughout the turn, just so that you can bounce it back to your hand. Not a bad grade 2 to have in the rad deck, so one of in the rad deck of Lattice. And on to our last card in the deck, they have in the main deck, one of in the ride deck of the blue roar that rumbles even the sea of trees. I think that is Megumi's ride chant for it. Sylvanhorn Beast Emperor, Magnolia Patriarch. Man, I love how Magnolia got an Evo in set 8. It honestly deserved it. So grade 3 Gen Persona, 13k base. So this is one of Bushy's, what I like to call grade 4 rechains, where essentially they made any deck that had a grade 4, they took the original grade 3 and then shoved its skill into the grade 4 essentially, and then made it the grade 4, but one turn faster, kind of, and you can always tell because they have some ability to like mitigate the fact that they don't have triple drive. For example, Magnolia straight up gains triple drive. So auto when placed on Vanguard Circle, almost verbatim from the skill of the old one from Elder, except better. Choose up to 1 card Sylvanhorn Beast in the card name from your drop zone, call to Rearguard Circle. Elder called any unit from your soul, but 9 times out of 10 you would only have a Sylvanhorn Beast, and specifically Lattice and Soul. This thing grabs, granted specifically Sylvanhorn Beast, but any Sylvanhorn Beast from the drop zone. So your entire trigger lineup over here, if you choose to run my BS trigger lineup, you could call, but also it just calls all of your good units for free just by being placed. And again, you can ride this, call Banaspati, Banaspati calls Giunosla, and then you call Comadrett via its own skill. Second skill, contains Vanguard. If your opponent's Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, all your rear guards can intercept from back row and get 5,000 power, and if your Persona of this turn, it gets +1 drive, active for his turns. So Elder's ability was everything could intercept from back row, and all of your rear guards get 5,000 power, and inherently had triple drive because of course it was a grade 4. But because Patriarch is meant to be Elder but faster, but it still wants to balance it out, it still restricts itself to where your opponent has to be at grade 3, because whenever you were on Elder, your opponent was on grade 3 anyways, to get the 5k intercepting. But on the bright side of your Persona, it gets drive +1, not triple drive specifically, so it does bypass the elementary Sanctitude PG. And finally, the best part about this card is how they chose to introduce back row attack. Act Vanguard once per turn, CB1, shoot the same number of rear guards as the grade of your opponent's Vanguard, and they can continuously with rear guard, they can attack from back row to end of turn. I love how they chose to do this, because yes, it's not Elder's ability to make it free, but in my opinion, that'd just be too busted at that point, just be grade 3 Elder. But instead, they made it better than OG Magnolia, who had to attack first, and then you only got to pick 1 unit, and if you Persona OG pick 3, Magnolia Patriarch now picks anything up to the opponent's Vanguard's grade, meaning at bare minimum, turn 3, you now go from having 4 attacks if you went first to having 5 attacks if you went first. And if you went second, well, you get the 6 anyways. All around, pretty solid. And it's the only cost printed on the card, which can literally be turn free thanks to Comadrett over here. Very solid, grade 3 to have. On place, it gets you rear guards. You can set off a chain of events that get you from 1 rear guard to 3 rear guards in about 5 seconds flat. When your opponent hits grade 3, all your rear guards get 5k, the ability to intercept from back row, and it possibly gets triple drive when you Persona Ride, and not to mention the fact that it instigates 5 to 6 attacks just by your opponent simply playing the game. Very solid, grade 3 to have. It's a really good, I say, supporter, but also leader in the Sylvanhorn army, because all of them work together and pull their weight equally well. Magnolia triggers all of their skills, and all of their skills are incredibly good and basically are a one-man army. So if you want to put Elder in this deck, you could get rid of maybe Tepar altogether, but I feel like it's worth keeping just for Patriarch's focus. I want to make Patriarch kind of its own deck, kind of how I had Magnus on its own deck, and then I put together an Ignis Magnus deck, which will eventually go up. Same with Magnolia, though I didn't really put together an Elder version. And that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Honestly, this deck is very fun fun to play. If for those that don't remember, I hated Magnolia with a burning passion until Danny Maru came out. One of my favorite grade 2s of all time, and then everyone hated Danny Maru once Elder came out, like how they hated Urger once Mahar came out, because their cards were name-specific support, meaning their abilities wouldn't go off with the grade 4, who you always wanted to be on, even though there were turns where you wouldn't be on the grade 4, because this was before we got the superior rides for that, and I still stand by my statement. But being able to now run, I mean, granted, you can't run Danny Maru in this deck, but being able to basically have Elder but faster, and then just have like a consistent line of grade 2s that feel like they all proc off each other's synergy really well and create a board literally out of nowhere is just incredible. I like how this deck feels like what Bastion is, but with grade 2s. It's really fun to play, and I definitely recommend you pick it up if you're interested in Magnolia or Megumi at all, because for once they didn't job Megumi. She actually did pretty good. So without further ado, I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us on Twitch, and don't forget to set up your Vanguards.